How's it going, everybody? C-RadTV back here in another video. Of course, it is the NFL Week 18 picks. We are here in the final week of the NFL regular season. As, of course, the last week of the year where we find out who will be competing for the 60th Lombardi Trophy and who will be heading to Cancun Monday. And also, there's also going to be rumors about coaches potentially getting fired on Black Monday, of course. So, of course, last week my picks did pretty mediocre with it. Went 8-8 with my picks, so my record this year goes to 166, 88, and 1. And, of course, in terms of teams clinching playoff spots, we had the Green Bay Packers and the Houston Texans both clinch playoff spots, bringing the playoff field up to 12 teams now. And we had two teams eliminated last week, and those two being the Detroit Lions and the Indianapolis Colts. Which the Indianapolis one is pretty shocking, considering that the Colts were at one point this year 7-1, and they had one of the worst collapses I think I've ever seen. Because the Colts have lost 7 of 8 after starting the year 7-1. Pretty fucked up collapse. But yeah, of course, we have 2 imposters remaining and 2 playoff spots up for grabs. So we got 4 teams this week competing for the last 2 playoff spots. Pretty much the field is effectively set outside the 2 spots, which are just division winners for the NFC South and the AFC North spoilers. Everything else is just seeding this weekend, just some tank bowl stuff. But anyway, you know how to drill. You know the drill for how I do Week 18 for picks normally. So, of course, for tradition, the games of least importance, we're going to pick first. And then the games of most importance with the most playoff implications, we're going to do last. So anyway, with that said, let's get into the picks this week. So starting off, our first game, we have the Green Bay Packers, Minnesota Vikings playing in Minnesota. Of course, the Packers, they're rumored to be resting a lot of their starters for this game. So this game honestly doesn't really mean much for either team except bragging rights. So I'm just going to go out and I'm going to say the Vikings win this game at home against Minnesota. Plus, if Minnesota wins, then Detroit will be guaranteed to finish last place since Minnesota has tiebreaker over Detroit on head-to-head. So I'm going to take the Vikings at home against the Packers. I think Green Bay is going to lose on purpose to fuck Minnesota's draft position up. And to guarantee Detroit finishes last in the North. So give me the Vikings in that one. And for our next game, well, it ain't Week 18 without some automatic tank bowls. So, of course, for the tank bowls, we're going to go over the ones of least importance first, and then the super ones with the most implications we go last with all the meaningful games. So, our first meaningless tank bowl, we have the Cincinnati Bengals, Cleveland Browns playing in Cincinnati. Yeah, I got the Bengals in this one. Give me Cincinnati in this one. Plus, there's a chance that the Browns could fire Kevin Stefanski after this game. So, honestly, honestly, I'll be honest, both head coaches for these two teams should be fired after this game, but the Bengals are rumored to be keeping Zach Taylor, so I don't see that one happening, and we're not 100% sure what happened with Kevin Stefanski and the Browns. I think he's probably going to get fired, but, it's hard to tell. I think that's a time will tell type deal, but give me Cincinnati at home in this one. And now, we have ourselves another automatic tank bowl. So this tank bowl will see the New Orleans Saints and the Atlanta Falcons playing in Atlanta. Yeah, I got the Falcons in this one. It always seems like the Falcons always show up whenever they get eliminated. They always seem to win all these games, win a lot of games when they get eliminated from playoff contention, and that's what's happened so far. And I think the Falcons are going to end the year on a positive note. So give me the Falcons winning in this one. And keep in mind, this game does have some playoff implications later on. We'll talk about it later. Now, to some other meaningless games. Next up, Washington Commanders, Philadelphia Eagles playing in Philadelphia. Game that doesn't really matter to either team. I imagine Philly's probably going to rest their starters for this game. Seeding honestly doesn't really matter too much unless it's the 1 seed. Like, if you're not the 1 seed, then seeding doesn't really fucking mean anything. But I think even if Philadelphia does rest their starters, I think the Eagles are still going to win against the Commanders. Give me Philadelphia at home over Washington in this one. Next game, Arizona Cardinals, Los Angeles Rams playing in Los Angeles. I imagine the Rams are going to be resting their starters. I mean, it doesn't matter what seed you are when you're a wild card team. You're going to be going on the road in the first round regardless. So seeding doesn't really matter there. I'm going to take the Cardinals to win this one on the road over LA. I think LA's the favorite right now, but those odds could flip in Arizona's favor if the Rams rest starters, which they should. I mean, this game doesn't really matter to either team, so give me the Cardinals on the road in this one. Next game, Detroit Lions, Chicago Bears playing in Chicago. Game that honestly doesn't matter to either team. The Bears should rest starters. I believe they're not going to be, but I think Detroit's going to play spoiler in this game. Honestly, this game doesn't mean anything. I don't think Ben Johnson's going to pull starters unless somebody gets hurt and he ends up getting his ego checked. But yeah, give me the Lions on the road in this one to play spoiler. And for Dan Campbell, stick it to Ben Johnson one more time before heading to Cancun. This game honestly doesn't matter to either team. And there's a chance Detroit will be guaranteed last place by default if Minnesota beats Green Bay. So Detroit really has nothing to lose coming in this game. So give me the Lions on the road in this one. But yeah, to everybody else though, thank you all for playing this year. Now it's time to get into the games that actually matter this week. And we begin this week with the Super Tank Bowl to decide the first overall pick. So here's how Tank Bowl for the first overall pick lines up this week. For Las Vegas, it's pretty simple. Lose, and you clinch the spot. For the Giants, they need a loss, and then they need the Raiders to win, and then they need a bunch of other shit to happen in terms of strength of schedule, strength of victory, tiebreaker. And pretty much for that shit to happen, they would need at least 2 losses from Detroit, New Orleans, San Francisco, or Cincinnati to reclaim what was lost. So, what they lost last week when they beat the Raiders last week. So, of course, for this week of the Giants, they play host to the Dallas Cowboys, and the Raiders play host to the Kansas City Chiefs. I'll be honest, I think Dallas is going to lose this game on purpose because it seems like a Jerry Jones thing to just troll the Giants and fuck over their draft position. Like, this game honestly means nothing to the Cowboys. And if the Giants win, then the Raiders clinch the pick by default. And in terms of Chiefs-Raiders, even despite the Chiefs being banged up, and of course, this week also going to be big for the Chiefs. It could potentially be Travis Kelce's last game in a Chiefs uniform, most likely. I think the Chiefs are going to do everything they can to go out and get a win. So I'm going to take the Chiefs on the road in this one. In fact, with San Francisco-Seattle playing on Saturday, there's a chance that game that the Raiders could have the first overall pick locked up after Saturday. But I'm going to take the Raiders to lose. I have the Giants beating the Cowboys. I think the Giants split the season series to the Cowboys. And I think the Raiders are going to clinch the Tank Bowl and get the first overall pick this year, which will be the first time since, I believe, 2007 when they drafted Jamarcus Russell, famously over Calvin Johnson. So yeah, I'm going to take the Raiders to come out of here with the Tank Bowl trophy and the first overall pick. And of course, this year's Tank Bowl champion will get a Tank Bowl trophy graphic as you see on the screen. So now with the last bit of Tank Bowl out of the way, now let's get into the games that actually have the most playoff implications. Of course, we're going to start this off with the NFC since it's pretty straightforward. For the NFC South, on Saturday, Carolina versus Tampa Bay, a game for the NFC South. Carolina, it's pretty straightforward. Win and you're good. Win and you're in the playoffs. For Tampa Bay, they need a win and they need a Falcons loss to clinch the NFC South. Since there's a chance that Atlanta could still win out and get the NFC and still finish ahead of Tampa Bay in the standings off head-to-head. off the head-to-head tiebreaker or whatever the tiebreaker is. But yeah, Carolina and Tampa Bay. So yeah, there is a possibility where Carolina could lose this game and still clinch the NFC South. And I feel like that's what's going to happen. I have Tampa Bay winning this game, but I have the Falcons winning their Tank Bowl matchup against the Saints. And I think despite that, I think Carolina is somehow going to bullshit their way into the NFC South in the playoffs for the first time since 2017. See, I got Tampa Bay winning, but Carolina gets the last laugh and eliminates the Buccaneers from playoff contention. I think Carolina goes to the playoffs. But yeah, it would be something crazy if the Buccaneers still made it in despite all the injuries they dealt with this year. Now we get into the NFC matchup that actually doesn't have any outside implications from Tank Bowl games, where it's just simply winner take all. As this next game is for the NFC 1 seed and the NFC West. The Saturday night game between the Seattle Seahawks and the San Francisco 49ers. The winner is the 1 seed, and the loser is most likely the 5 seed going in after this game. So yeah, second year in a row where the NFC 1 seed is also for a division game. And we all know how crucial the NFC 1 seed, again, the 1 seed in the playoff picture is, because in all the 59 previous Super Bowls, at least like 76% of 1 seeds going into the playoffs have made the Super Bowl. And like only 2 times has the 5 seed in the NFC made the Super Bowl, but the 2 times the 5 seed did make it in, it was the 2007 New York Giants and the 2020 Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and both of them went on to win the Super Bowl those years. So if it's the 5 seed, it's not the end of the world. It just means your road to the Super Bowl gets even harder. So yeah, for this game, I'm going to take the Seahawks on the road. I think, even despite San Francisco battling valiantly, despite all the injuries they've dealt with this year, I think it's going to catch up to the 49ers, and I think the Seahawks take advantage of it. Like Seattle has been really fucking good this year. I think Seattle is going to win and get the 1 seed, and I think the road to Super Bowl 60 will go through Seattle in the 12. So give me Seattle on the road to win the game and clinch the NFC West and the NFC 1 seed. So we now go to the AFC side of the bracket. As now the AFC side, it gets a little complicated. For the AFC South, it's a bit straightforward. For Jacksonville, win and you clinch the division. For Houston, they need a win and a Jacksonville loss to clinch the AFC South. Of course, Houston, they play host this week to the Indianapolis Colts. And of course, for the Colts, Phillip Rivers is out. Riley Leonard is in. Since the Colts are eliminated, so this game doesn't really mean too much. I have the Texans winning this game over the Colts. The Houston's playing everybody. They have to. So I have Houston winning and giving themselves in position to possibly get the 1 seed. Now Houston will have to wait, because before we can get to Jacksonville's game, we also have to bring up the AFC 1 seed conversation in this. Since Jacksonville is still eligible for the AFC 1 seed, because now to the AFC 1 seed, well, it's pretty straightforward. For Denver, you win and you clinch the AFC 1 seed. For New England, they get first dibs if they win and Denver falters in Week 18. But if Denver and New England both lose this week, then Jacksonville can leapfrog both of them to get the 1 seed with a win. So, of course, at Jacksonville, they play host to Tennessee. Denver plays host to the Los Angeles Chargers. And New England plays host to Miami. Well, Tennessee's tanking for draft position. Tennessee's just been pretty bad this year. At least Cam Waters looked pretty solid so far, but the Titans need a lot of things before to fix that up and to get back into relevancy. I have Jacksonville winning, so with Jacksonville winning, I have the Jaguars clinching the AFC South. In terms of the 1 seed, well, the Chargers are most likely going to be resting players for this game. And then for terms of Patriots-Dolphins, well, the Dolphins, it's a cold weather game. Tua's not playing in the cold, it's Quinn Ewers. And Mike McDaniels honestly should be fired, but he's rumored to be staying around. So, I have the Dolphins winning. I have the Dolphins losing this game. I have New England winning. So give me the Patriots at home in this one. Also, I forgot to mention New York Jets and Buffalo Bills, if I haven't already. Well, the Bills are going to be resting starters for that game. I have the Jets winning that game because Aaron Glenn's job is for rumored to be on the line. So I have the Jets winning, so Glenn's going to do everything to keep his job. Just thought I'd mention that one real quick because I forgot about that. But anyway, back to the AFC 1 seed. I have New England winning, but I think the Chargers are going to rest their starters against the Broncos, and I think that gives Denver an easy path to the AFC 1 seed. So I have the Broncos winning, and I have the AFC 1 seed going to Denver, and I think the road to Super Bowl 60 will go through Mile High. So yeah, I'm gonna tell you, so I have the Broncos winning, the Patriots winning, and Jacksonville winning. And the Broncos get the 1 seed, and Jacksonville gets the AFC South. And now we get to our final game of the week. Our final game of the regular season, the Sunday night game. For the AFC North, Baltimore Ravens, Pittsburgh Steelers playing in Pittsburgh. Had t-shirt game for the AFC North. And the final playoff spot in the AFC. It's a pretty straightforward game here. Winner goes to the playoffs. The loser is eliminated from playoff contention. So, yeah, I have the Ravens winning this game on the road. Just, Pittsburgh had a chance to clinch last week, but the Pittsburgh Steelers did their yearly tradition against the Browns, where they played down to an inferior opponent and made a game more competitive than they should have been, and then they lost as a result. A yearly Pittsburgh tradition with Mike Tomlin. Honestly, remember when Steelers fans were pumping their chests after beating the Lions, and then they get humbled by losing to the Browns? That's kind of funny. And I think Pittsburgh completes the collapse, where Pittsburgh will lose this game. I have the Ravens winning this game, and I think Pittsburgh will miss the playoffs. But hey, Steelers fans, at least you got your 9-8 record and kept Tomlin's streak of winning seasons alive. So at least you got your 9-8 Super Bowl this year. But like I said, the Steelers keeping that Tomlin streak of winning season alive is just giving Pittsburgh a one-way ticket to hell. I have Baltimore winning, and I have Baltimore making the playoffs with the AFC North. So yeah. Anyway, those are my Week 18 picks for this week. So in terms of playoff implications, I have the AFC 1 seed going to Denver. I have the AFC South going to Jacksonville. I have the AFC North going to Baltimore. I have the NFC 1 seed going to Seattle. I have the NFC South going to Carolina. Even though I think Tampa Bay wins that game, I have Carolina still clinching it anyway because of Atlanta beating the Saints in the Tank Bowl. And I got Las Vegas clinching the first overall pick in the Tank Bowl this year. So pretty much, I think the 14 teams you currently see in the playoffs, I think those 14 teams are going to be the same 14 we see after this week. I don't really see much changing after this week, even though Pittsburgh's currently in on head-to-head tiebreaker. But I think that changes with Baltimore winning. But yeah, anyway, that wraps it up for this week. So, of course, that's all I gotta say. And, of course, the goal for the last 4 teams standing, don't get eliminated. And after this week, we'll find out who our last 2 imposters are heading to Cancun. And who the last 2 teams will be. That will be competing for the 60th Lombardian this season. But anyway, that wraps it up here, and I'll see you all later. I'm out, and Happy New Year.